Patrick Cook here. Hey, so welcome to session number 7 of our discussion of why we create Mandelbulb 3D art. Wanted to take a few minutes here and talk about the challenges of creating Mandelbulb 3D art. One of the challenges, of course, and I talked about this in earlier sessions, is that if you resist the process of discovery, you're going to be frustrated by it. You set the stage. You decide the formulas you're going to use, but the software runs these formulas and generates a graphical image. If you don't like that, then you set yourself up for some frustrations. And that's one of the challenges of working with the Mandelbulb 3D application. You're not entirely in charge, right? You aren't. And it's very difficult for you to predict what you're going to get in terms of a graphic. And if you have a hard time with that, you are going to be frustrated with the application and the whole process, and you will not continue to work with the Mandelbulb 3D application because it doesn't suit you. You probably need to be overworking with Blender, or maybe one of the game applications, Unity, and those kind of applications where you get to decide everything. All right, you get to decide your character, your movement, you get to decide the scenery. You're in control of the physics, the graphics, the audio, everything. And that's a cool thing. That's a cool space to be in. You're not in that space with generative fractal art. It is formulas that are run, that are the outcome of the outputs of the formulas are interpolated out to a pixel, and the pixels form a pattern that are then colored, all right? And you are not deciding what that graphic looks like. You're participating in it by deciding the formulas and, and the properties and stuff, but you're not in control of the art. Now, you get to accept and reject that art. All right, that's entirely up to you to accept, reject. You get to make a still, you get to make an animation. Where the Mandelbulb 3D generative art is difficult is if you are trying to get it to do something that it's not designed to do, and that is you're trying to get it to make a graphic design, thinking that you're in control of the generation of the graphic from the formulas, and you're not. So you're fighting the application and you're spoiling your fun. All right, that's one area that the Mandelbulb 3D can be challenging. And if you get over that, you're going to be fine. If you fully embrace the aspect of working with generative fractal art, if you fully embrace the discovery process, you're going to have a wonderful time. All right. The other difficult, or I should say, the other challenge of working with generative fractal art is that you need to come up with a story. The graphic is going to pop out, and the graphic is purely a result of pixels interacting with one another to form a pattern. All right, but the Mandelbulb 3D software is not telling a story. It has no idea that there's a story involved. It just says, oh, all right, put this pixel here and that pixel there, and then make a graphic. It's up. Well, I don't know anything. And of course, the Mandelbulb 3D was invented probably before they even had the concept of artificial intelligence. Uh, so there's no AI involved here whatsoever, and I don't think there ever will be with this Mandelbulb application. So it's up to you to find the story. Now, here's the challenge. If you're resistant to finding the story, well, then all these images to you are just going to look, whatever. They don't mean anything. If you don't see the story in the graphic that pops up, nobody else is going to see the story either. You don't see it, they're not going to see it. It's up to you to take a graphic and figure out what kind of story you want to tell. You can use your tools to help you tell that story. You can certainly go back down there and modify the properties and get a little bit different graphic. Or you can come in here, and you can use your tools. You can use your tools to help tell the story. Okay? That's up to you. All right? But that's the second challenging part about Mandelbulb 3D generative art, is finding the story and telling the story. All right. Now, there's also difficult areas too. The application's a little buggy. It crashes. It locks up from time to time. All right. Just the way it is. Okay. I don't expect that we're going to get the 3D the Mandelbulb 3D application as we know it. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of improvement in it. Look, its documentation is sparse. All right. It's frustrating when you first get into it because its interface is unconventional. Uh, they did a fairly good job. I mean, for instance, if you hover over these buttons here, they did a fairly good job in kind of giving you little tips and pointers, but there is no full documentation on this, and I don't think there ever will be. That makes it more difficult. And yes, it'll crash, it'll lock up, it'll freeze, do weird things. All right? But the stuff you can get out of this, in my opinion, far exceeds its deficiencies. If I can pull a graphic out of this thing that just, in my opinion, is amazing, all right, and I can do an animation that just is amazing, and it tells a story and it's unique, and it was hard to do, and it was fun to do, and it was challenging to do. All of those aspects meld together, and your final result that you publish, okay, is like worthy of some attention. All right, and it's something to be proud of, whether you do this for YouTube views or not. You yourself had a good time and a challenging time to get to the point of what you output. Most of my Mandelbulb graphics no one ever sees. I've just got hundreds of them that are put aside, that I had a good time creating them. No one will ever see them. The only ones that anybody ever sees are the ones that, I want to share. All right. But the Mandelbulb 3D application is challenging technically, logistically, artistically, and it's a delicious challenge. You get lost in the process of discovery. You get excited when something just pops up and you say, wow, check it out, And you get lost in the whole process, in the process of discovery. And you reject far more often than you accept. And that's the cool part about the whole thing, because you're on a search for gems, and those gems will show up. They'll show up if you punch the process, the calculate button often enough. You're going to get some real gems, and then you're going to shift the whole paradigm. That is really cool. Now, what am I going to do with it? All right, then you set about to tell a story. All right, so look, the Mandelbulb 3D is a challenging application. Good, that's good. You can have a hard, frustrating time with it, in which case you're not really going to accomplish much as anything. If you stick with it, you're going to discover gems you're not going to know what to do with. All right? And that is the challenge of working with the Mandelbulb 3D to generate and to work with fractal generative art. Okay? All right, enough said on that. Hey, I'll see you in the next session. We'll continue our discussion of why we work with the Mandelbulb 3D art. I'll see you there.